Previously on agentpalmer.com, Dragon Quest Your Story on Netflix is an overlooked side quest with a great reward. Formula One Drive to Survive is all the reasons sports fans love sports, and it's good to know some of you like me because there are plans for more solo episodes. This is the Palmer Files, episode 16, with zooarchaeologist Alex Fitzpatrick, a New Yorker studying abroad in the United Kingdom. We'll dig into the past, plus video games, wrestling, and plenty in between. Are you ready? Let's do the show. Hello and welcome to the Palmer Files. I'm your host, Jason Stershik, also known as Agent Palmer, and on this 16th episode is Alex Fitzpatrick, zooarchaeologist, podcaster, blogger, and gamer. Her show, ArchaeoAnimals, can be heard on the Archaeology Podcast Network or wherever you are listening to this show, and you can find her blog at animalarchaeology.com. She is a zooarchaeologist, and if you're not sure what that is, we'll cover that right out of the gate, because I was wondering the same thing. Also, she's a PhD candidate, at least as of the recording of this. If you're not listening to it on release and you're listening years in the future, then perhaps she's Dr. Alex by now, but at this moment in time, she's working on her thesis, and we'll get into that too. We also diverged into Star Wars, video games, and wrestling, which was not what I was expecting, but I'm not disappointed. Alex was super fun to have on and a joy to converse with. I learned a little bit, had my old man persona confirmed a little bit, and had a whole lot of good conversation, which is what this show is genuinely about. Now, one small disclosure. We talk about Animal Crossing as this was recorded during the countdown to Animal Crossing New Horizons, which by now I'm sure Alex has put hours and hours into, as has everyone on all of my feeds. All of them. So when I called it an addiction during the show, as you'll hear, I've been vindicated in that diagnosis. So if you want to discuss the episode as you listen or afterwards, you can tweet me at Agent Palmer, you can tweet the show at The Palmer Files, and you can tweet Alex at ArchaeologyFitz. That's ArchaeoAnimals. You can hear her on ArchaeoAnimals wherever you are listening to this show, or on the ArchPodNet, that's Archaeology Podcast Network. Don't forget, you can see all of my writings and rantings on agentpalmer.com, and remember, all of these links and those mentioned in the show will be available in the show notes. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alex, let's start with a very easy one, and one you probably get all the time. For my audience, zooarchaeology is what?
I mean, to be fair, I get that from, actual archaeologists, so it's completely fine. Zooarchaeology is basically, it's the study of dead animals for the bare bones of it.
So, is this in conjunction with everything else? You're not just picking up bones, right, and looking at them. There's got to be more to it.
I mean, it feels like that most of the time, to be honest.
Okay.
Usually what happens is I'm sitting at my desk, and then someone comes over with a big bag of dirty bones, and then lays it on my desk, and then they walk away, and then that's my next 5 months.
Okay, so dumb guy here, right? And visually, the only thing I have for this kind of a dig is the very beginning of Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. But shouldn't they leave it in place? Maybe it can't be helpful to be here's some bones.
Yeah, that's the issue. And I talk about this a lot, and it comes off as very bitter, but it's because I am. Animal bones are always kind of seen as the second thing that's kind of important. Not even the second thing, maybe the third thing that's important with archaeology, because the first thing everyone cares about, I feel is Actually, no, it's more of a toss-up between human remains and, like, artifacts. So, like, depending on what you have, like, those are, like, the key things. But when it comes to animal bones, they kind of get a bad rap for being, like, oh, they're just, like, garbage. So, most of the time, I usually just get bones, like, out of context. I mean, my PhD right now are bones I've actually excavated myself, so I do have the context for that, or mostly excavated myself. But yeah, most of the time they kind of just send you a bag of bones and they're like, this was found in blah, blah, blah. Just tell me what these bones are. So.
Is that, I mean, the process of like, just here's a bone, tell me what it is. Like that's, you said a bag of bones takes you like 5 months. Like, is there a process by which it's like, oh no, I've been doing this for long enough, I know what that is? Or is it like, oh, time to go back to the drawing board?
I mean, that's the problem, is that, like, in a perfect world, every bone would be, like, complete and whole and, like, fine, and I'd be able to, like, ID them off the top of my head. But, of course, with archaeology, you get, like, fragments. So it's a lot of me taking, like, maybe, like, the middle piece of a bone and then, like, putting it up next to, like, an entire, like, horse bone that I have in my reference collection and being like, that doesn't look the same, and then doing it again with something else. And I keep doing that forever until my brains kind of just pour out my ears.
So give me a big success, right? Have you been able to, like, change someone's mind about something because of the animal bones? Or are you still waiting for that to happen where you can be like, no, fuck you, this is what happened?
I mean, not really. The stakes of the stuff I'm working on are relatively low, but I've been able to, like, change some minds around. For example, one of the caves that I'm working in, I was able to ID that some of the animals in there were canids, so wolves or dogs, which is why it's now called the wolf chamber. So
nice.
That's kind of cool, you know?
Let me go back to a what I'm going to guess is a general question you get all the time, which is, why didn't you go with dinosaurs?
I mean...
And is that a question you get? I just imagine, like, you know, if you're going to do dead animals, why not do, like, the older dead animals?
I mean, it's definitely, like, I think every archaeologist in general gets that question of, like, oh, do you dig dinosaurs? And the answer is, like, no, at least not intentionally. You might do it on accident. But yeah, with zooarchaeology, it's a bit weirder, especially because, like, I work in later prehistoric Britain, and, like, there's a point where the crossover with extinct animals kind of gets... like, they kind of overlap. Like, there's a couple of extinct animals that I work with in my assemblages. So, like, yeah, there's a bit of an overlap between, like, paleontology and zooarchaeology. I didn't do dinosaurs because, I don't know, I just didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's fair. I mean, you... So, I want to go into your education for a moment. Like, at what point do you start in just archaeology and then, veer off into a subset for the animals, or do you start as a zooarchaeologist to begin with?
Oh gosh, no. So I did my undergrad at Hunter College in New York, and I was a classical archaeologist. So I did Greece and Rome, Egypt, all that kind of stuff. I was really into the Hellenic period, and then I realized, like, maybe in my junior year, I was like, wait, I actually hate this. Like, I don't want to ever look at, like, Greek vases again. I hate pottery. I hate all of this. This is the worst. And then I went and did my first excavation in Scotland on the Orkney Islands. And I really liked that. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm more into Viking Age stuff. So I went and did my master's in archaeological science, because I was like, oh, I should probably get more skills if I want to be an archaeologist. And I was, like, really into the more Viking Age stuff. And then I got into... after a while, I got really into the animal bones, and then I just kind of got stuck with the animal bones, mostly because there's no one else who does it in my department, really, besides, like, one other lecturer, so it felt cool to do that.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what is your, you have to write a paper for a PhD, right?
Yeah, big one.
So what's your topic?
I am looking at faunal remains from the Cowsey Caves, which are a series of later prehistoric caves on the coast of Scotland. And I'm specifically looking at the ways that they use these faunal remains for their ritual and funerary purposes.
Okay. I look. So the dumbfounded look on my face is not because of what you just said. It's more of a indictment on the higher education at large. Like I got a bachelor's degree. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Like, but it always amazes me that these papers and these theses, whatever, from like the higher up you go in like doctoral level, are always so like pointed down.
They're very
like,
niche.
Oh, I want to write about these caves. Nope, you can't just write about these caves. All right, can I write about this puddle in these caves? No. Can I write about this germ in this puddle about these caves? All right, you're getting warmer. Can I write about this atom on this germ? And like, it's just so amazing to me, because then you've got to take whatever we've drilled down and like write 100 pages.
Yeah.
Where there's not 100 pages that exist in the world for this.
That's like my issue right now. Actually, I've had to pare down a bit of my thesis because I was told I was getting a little too broad, and I was like, but how do you write more than like 3 pages on this? Like, I'm going to hand in like a 1-page paper and be like, this is my thesis. Like, technically this is about 4 years worth of work, but it's wild, and I don't necessarily enjoy that. I'm very much not really into the whole like your PhD has to be like 200 pages or whatever. But it's a struggle that I still don't really understand, and I'm in like the last 6 months of my PhD. So
okay, well, let me change topics for a moment. You went to school in New York.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you via Skype. You're in the United Kingdom. I grant you, I understand they got older shit over there, but like, why'd you jump the pond?
I mean, that's literally the reason why. But also just because, like, it's weird. In America, archaeology is seen as an anthropology, like, subfield. And I did like doing that. I actually double majored in anthropology. And it was great, but, like, it wasn't necessarily what I was looking at for archaeology. I really wanted to be more hands-on, stuff like that. And in the UK, at least, they're a bit more science-based. So I moved to the UK to do archaeological science, and then that turned into zooarchaeology, and at that point I was like attached to a program here, so I kind of just stayed here, and yeah.
So then I obviously have to ask, like, what are the biggest cultural differences living abroad, I guess?
Okay, they have like no salad dressing here. I've lived here almost 5 years now, and it still boggles my mind. Like, I love a good ranch dressing. You can't get ranch dressing here.
So I guess what do they put on their? So they just eat salad. It's just salad,
like vinaigrette stuff, which is like okay, but like I'm an American. I want my ranch dressing or my blue cheese dressing. What am I supposed to dip my chicken wings in? Like, are you serious?
What can you dip your chicken wings in?
Sometimes you can get lucky and you can get blue cheese, but most of the time it's like just chili sauce or barbecue sauce or something. It's don't even get me started on the barbecue chicken status in this country. It's very dire.
Now talking to you, I don't hear an accent, but I presume discernibly that people tell you have an accent.
Yeah, it's I think it depends, like, because you're American, so like I revert a bit more to American, but like I live with my partner who's British, and like when he speaks to me, he's told me like in the past couple of years that I sound more British. But like if I talk to my mom, who is a New Yorker, like that accent just brings out my like original Long Island accent, which is horrible, but
that's gonna be okay. So what you're telling me is you can speak in tongues. That's what I'm hearing.
Basically, like I can kind of. I mean, people here still, like, if I talk to a stranger at, like, a shop or something, they can sometimes pinpoint it, be like, oh, what are you, like, Canadian or something? But, yeah, I think, for the most part, you'd have to talk to me for a very long time to realize it. But to be honest, like, there's a lot of Americans over here, especially in my department, so I think everyone just kind of knows.
Oh, okay. I mean, if the United Kingdom educationally, for archaeology in general is what it is, then it's going to probably be the bigger melting pot, I would say, outside of what like the Middle East or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And have you traveled around? Have you done digs?
I mean, I'm a bit boring when it comes to archaeology because I mostly have done digs in Scotland. That's like where all my research is. And to be honest, I don't really do digs anymore because it's a lot of work and I don't like doing that. So,
but there is a desk component.
Yeah, I mean, like there's like a saying of like, you know, you only spend 10% of your time digging in archaeology, and it's kind of true, depending on what you actually do in archaeology. So, as someone who's like a specialist with bones, most of the time I'm working in the lab, or like if there's no lab space on my desk, which happens sometimes.
Well, I mean, so I learned a little bit about, I want to say corporate archaeology. That's not quite the right thing. But when I talked to Tristan about before they can build a building,
yeah, commercial archaeology,
they
right?
do a dig. Yeah, commercial, not corporate. It's still all. It's all
to say. It's fine.
So is that partly where a good chunk of your work comes from?
Most of my work's actually big academic research stuff. But I know a lot of other zooarchaeologists who become more freelance and end up doing a lot of like CRM work like that, just because not every CRM group has a faunal bone specialist. So it's like, it's not bad money from what I understand. I don't do that now. I'm too busy.
All right. So this is what I want to ask then. Is it in your specialized profession? Mm-hmm. Is it like maybe like a D&D campaign where like you should have a cleric with you? There should be someone who like maybe even if it's not an actual zooarchaeologist, like someone who specializes in animals when people are digging, like when you're putting together this team. Or is it, nah, forget about it, and then they come across animal bones and like, oh, call them up?
I mean, like, in a perfect world, every excavation should probably have a specialist of different types. So, like, you know, a faunal bone specialist, a human bone specialist, someone who specializes in, like, ceramics or whatever. But, like, you know, nothing's perfect. You're never going to have all those people. I mean, like the last time I went digging, I was the only faunal bone specialist, but we didn't have a human bone specialist. And like, for the most part, I can tell the difference between a human bone and a animal bone. But if it's like a really small fragment, I'm just like, don't know what to tell you. So it was kind of a pain, and I'd have to go and actually like FaceTime with some colleagues of mine to be like holding up bones, being like, is this a human bone? I can't tell.
You're the first person within the Archaeology Podcast Network that I've had on outside of Tristan.
So the only good
one. And I didn't think it was right to ask him this question, but like, your network, the network intrigues me on so many levels, but mainly because it's more of you're looking for more of a professional audience. Mm-hmm. And I guess real quick, I will do this. For those of you who don't know, the Archaeology Podcast Network was created by Tristan and Chris 5 years ago, mm-hmm. I think at this point. And they're brought together a bunch of shows, and it's member supported, but you can still listen to all the shows because they're all widely available. And it's aimed at the industry of archaeology, and you know, a lot of the shows, like, you know, Alex, your show is very approachable to people that aren't within the industry. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of unique to me, at least, because I've seen other networks that are just like, hey, here's a bunch of people, a bunch of different podcasts, let's throw them together. This one's you know, got a mission. Mm-hmm. It's to teach and to network. Have you been able to network since you launched your show?
I mean, yeah, I've gotten a lot of, you know, opportunities through the show, speaking engagements, things like that. I've been surprised because I get like, I don't want to call it fan mail because I'm not that important or cool, but like I get messages from like people who do listen to the podcast, and most of them are not archaeologists at all. They're just people who just started listening, I guess, because they're into dead animals or whatever. And it's nice because that's really the important thing, because Chris actually approached me and asked if, like, oh, I heard you on a different podcast and thought you were funny and think that you could host your own podcast. And I was like, okay, well, I definitely want it to be approachable because, like, otherwise no one's going to listen to it. And also, I don't want to talk like that because I really, like, academic jargon and stuff, I really hate writing. I'd rather just kind of, talk like a normal human being.
Well, and your show has covered a lot of things, and it's been very approachable. One of the things I had to ask you was your favorite fictional animal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's movie, video game, like I'm not book, whatever, but like, give me your favorite fictional animal.
I love porgs. I have right now. We're recording in my office, and I have a stuffed porg staring at me from the corner of the room. When Last Jedi came out and I saw porgs, I lost my mind. And the amount of porg-related things I've gotten from friends and family since then has been enormous, and that's all I care about.
You are not the only person who lost their mind when porgs came
They're
out.
great. I love it.
Are you still upset with Chewie, or have you come to terms?
I mean, it's just the way of things. Like, I get it. I mean, I eat meat too, so I get it.
Okay, all right. Is there, and I know you kind of covered this on an episode, but is there enough historical archaeology, within the Star Wars universe, or any cinematic universe for that matter?
I mean, the Star Wars one, for those of people who are listening and never listen to my podcast, we do have an entire episode dedicated to Star Wars archaeology because if I didn't get that off my chest, I would have exploded because that's all I think about all the time. So, like, a little bit of backstory in that I was a very big fan of the Expanded Universe. I have like 3 encyclopedias in my house just about the Expanded Universe of Star Wars. It means a lot to me.
And you've only highlighted the animal stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I also, like, history is so important to the Star Wars universe, so there's loads to talk about when it comes to archaeology. I mean, archaeologists are canon in the universe as well, for both Sith and Jedi, So
does that mean that you are looking at, say, Rise of Skywalker with a different eye when they go back to remains of a Death Star? Because, like, that would be something that would be, like, I mean, to be fair, that would be the find of the millennium. Like, oh my God, we've got the remnants of the Death Star.
I mean, the thing about archaeology in Star Wars is it's really interesting because obviously you have those, like, big set pieces. And it's something I liked about the sequel trilogy is them using the remains of, AT-ATs and, like, the Death Star and stuff as set pieces. I always find that really interesting. But also because in Star Wars, the past can talk back to you, or, the dead speaks. Like, you can, like, with stuff like holocrons and Force Ghosts, you can literally, like, interact with the past. So I always am really interested in that on a theoretical basis for archaeology. But yeah, also the set pieces are really cool, So
you're a big Star Wars fan. Are there other universe, cinematic, book, whatever, that you also kind of apply that fandom to?
I mean, a lot, probably. Like, I find I do this a lot when I blog about archaeology on my website, which I originally started my blog to be like, I'm going to only talk about, like, guides to IDing animal remains and really academic stuff, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to write all about the archaeology of the Dragon Age video games, because whatever, or Skyrim or something, like, just because, like, that's fun, and also, why not?
I mean, I get the feeling people will generally understand more of what you're talking about in relationship to Skyrim, Star Wars, whatever, than just in general. Like, this 2,000-year-old bone of a canine, and like, what? No, this old dragon from the 4th dungeon of Sky. Oh, I'm with you. Like, it just makes it so much more relatable to people.
Yeah, I mean, that's another reason why I do it, other than the fact that, like, I also spend, like, hundreds of hours on these video games, so I might as well put that energy into something.
But are you playing these video games differently?
I mean,
just in comparison, right? Like, maybe I'll level, maybe I'll do this, but, like, you're kind of coming at it from a different angle, so you've got to spend, I don't know, more time in that dungeon or whatever, right?
My partner makes fun of me because I have this very bad habit of, if I'm watching him play a video game or we're watching TV together and there's remains, I'll immediately be like, that skeleton wouldn't be holding itself together like that. It would have already decayed, and it would be disarticulated. What are you talking about? And he's like, Alex, please shut up. But like, yeah, no, I do like look at things a bit more critically. Like, I just finished my first ever playthrough of The Witcher 3. And I really enjoyed how that's basically like a forensic archaeology game in terms of using your Witcher senses to like figure out things that happened. And I really enjoyed that. And I probably spent way more time than anyone else did using my Witcher senses to figure everything out. Because I was like, oh yeah. Like when Geralt's like, oh yeah, he was clearly ripped apart by whatever. I'm like, I would have figured that out too.
I will say, I'm kind of like you for sports in a very different way. My partner, I'm slowly getting her involved in watching sports. Yeah. And we'll watch a baseball game, and I'll be like, that guy was on a team 15 years ago when this happened. And then like, pause. Something happens in the game, and then like the actual commentator will start to tell that story.
Yeah.
So I've been, clairvoyant's not the right word. I feel like it's just like, oh, like that's a story that follows this player. It happens, but like she's never followed baseball or basketball or whatever. So I have all these random stories from all these random sports.
Yeah, I'm like that too.
And I'm just like, yeah, this happened. This is a thing. She's like, how do you know what they're going to say? And it's like, well, I mean, I remember I'm not getting a doctorate in sports, but I remember things.
No, I totally get that. Like, I've also been like that with wrestling because I've got my partner into professional wrestling finally. So I do a lot of like, okay, so this guy, he used to be the WWE heavyweight champion for just explaining who everyone is, which he actually needs because his whole thing is like, I'm not gonna watch 25 years worth of wrestling to know everyone's backstory.
So I was never into wrestling growing up, but in college, and I don't know why, but in college, everybody in like my section of my dorm watched wrestling. Yeah. And it was during the Attitude Era, which probably helped because I mean, it was just, I say this because I've tried to tune in recently, but like, in the Attitude Era, it felt like it was just superstar after superstar after superstar. There was no like B level, and if there was a B level, there were no C's like that, like the lower levels. But like it was just, The Rock was at his height, Jericho was on his way up, Austin was still around, Undertaker was not dad bod Undertaker. I don't know, Kane was still masked, the Big Show was still, like, there was just so many people, and it was funny, because as someone who had never watched it, it only takes, like, 2 episodes for you to get hooked on the storylines. Like, exactly, it's the one thing that they do so well is, like, oh yeah, you might be lost the first time you watch SmackDown, but the second time you watch it, you're like, all right, no, that guy hates that guy, and that guy's really pissed at that guy for some reason, but that guy doesn't know it yet. And it's just, all right, that's fair. And I mean, you've been watching it for a while. Like, have you seen repeated storylines, or are the writers still doing well?
I mean, I feel like I always say this kind of joking, but also kind of serious. Wrestling is the purest form of storytelling. Like you said, it's really easy to catch on because it really just boils down to that guy bad, that guy good, they wrestle. Like, literally, that's it. Like, regardless of, like, the extra stuff that they throw in, whether it's, like, the Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero case of who was the father of that kid Dominic, which is something that sticks to my brain forever. Like, it's always just like, one's a heel, one's a face, they're gonna fight. And it's very easy and approachable to get into that. And it's the like I said, purest form of storytelling, truly.
That's fair. I do have, because of when I was in college, I still have the September 13th, 2001 SmackDown tape
Oh, wow.
Because it was... Look, first of all, don't get me wrong, I wasn't like the hugest fan. Like, we all watched it, but I wasn't like the hugest fan. And I think maybe because I was a communications major, I was going to try and write a paper about it. But I was like, all right, well, everything else in the U.S. was canceled.
Yeah.
And it was like, SmackDown's still happening live Thursday night. It's like, all right, well, this is going to be something to see. And I haven't like rewatched it or anything. And I'm sure it's available on YouTube now, so I don't even need the tape. But it was just cathartic, I guess, to see like we can have a good time again. It was just it was the same as when baseball season picked back up and football season. Like it was just like we can go back to our lives again. But just something about that was very weird too, because like and it shows to the very good storytelling of wrestling, because they could put it on pause and pick it up on Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is going to be a catharsis episode. We're going to have a little bit of wrestling, but everybody's just going to parade down and talk to the nation. And then that's it. And that's all that episode really was. And it was odd, but we all watched it.
Yeah.
It was just as riveting. Okay, so we've covered Star Wars.
Yeah.
We've covered wrestling. We talked a little bit about video games. Like, what are the big video games for you?
Right now, first of all, Switch is the greatest console of all time. It's all I care about now.
Okay, hold on. Before Switch, what was it?
Actually, mostly just PC. I really was mostly a PC gamer. I had all the PlayStations growing up. I actually really didn't get into Nintendo till maybe, I don't know, 6 years ago. I just didn't necessarily have it around my house. We're a very big Lara Croft family and stuff like that. The Star Wars games, all the ones on PlayStation. I was also really into point and click games. So like the LucasArts games and stuff like that.
Okay. Myst.
Oh yeah.
Riven?
I don't think I've ever finished Myst because it's very hard for my tiny brain, but I liked it anyway.
Okay. To be fair, I never finished it either. I don't even think I got past the first, whatever. I was just like, I mean, I see what this is doing, but I don't, I think, so when Myst came out, I think I was like, I'm just going to go back to what at the time was Front Page Baseball, which I don't even remember how to play. I just remember the name. I know you didn't swing necessarily. Like it wasn't it was more of a simulator than a simulation. But to that end, PC gaming, Civilization.
I only got into Civ a couple years ago, and now I'm really into it. Although I finally switched to Civ 6 after playing Civ 5 for about 1,000 hours, and I'm not used to it. I'm a very peace-loving person. I can't be asked to do any of the war stuff, but for Civ 6, you always have to fight, and I'm like, guys, calm down. I don't want to fight, because then I have to put effort into that. Also, why does builders go away after 3 uses? I hate that.
Who do you play as?
Depends. I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to achievements for some reason. So when I used to play Civ 5 on my computer, I wanted to get all the achievements, so I played through every single ruler. I think it just depends on my mood, what I want to play as. Usually if I play with some friends online, I always end up being America because I'm usually the only American. But it just depends on how I'm feeling.
I will give you what makes me the grandfather in this conversation. I don't think I've played anything past Civ 2.
Oh, God. No offense, but yeah.
I've played Civ 1 a million times. In fact, I probably played it once in the last year.
Jeez.
But I don't know. I know it was great for gaming and whatever when they went to the Civ 2, 3, and 4 and they have the engine, the better visual engines. But I just like my blinking blocks. That's a city. That's a unit. That's, I was cool with that. I still am. That's fine.
I mean, to be fair, that's how I feel about SimCity. I for some reason I played the original SimCity and SimCity 2 a lot, so I haven't been able to get into newer SimCity types or was it Cities Skylines or whatever that other series is that's kind of similar. It's just too much for me. I need to have like, I used to play Sim Town, like that one all the time for some reason.
I remember, so that was in the era of we're going to make a sim everything. There was Sim Tower, there was Sim Ant,
I remember, yeah.
Sim Airport. There was a Sim Healthcare, which I was like, what? I thought they had went too far with that one. So what we're learning is that I'm the dinosaur.
A bit.
In this.
Yeah. No offense.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. I still play Quake, the first one.
Oh gosh, now you sound like my dad.
Oh, come on.
To be fair, okay, my dad, I've tried to get my dad into more recent video games, but the only games he plays is he plays Quake, he plays Doom, and he plays Half-Life 2. That's it. Those are the only games he plays.
Okay. I mean, I'm still waiting for, like, a good Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness, like, remake. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is where I became a grandfather in gaming and avoided becoming, like, a part of the mainstream. Is I was never into the world of Warcraft. When it went away from being a real-time strategy game was when I was like, I'm done with it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of, like, I kind of enjoyed Diablo.
Yeah.
I've never played beyond the first one, though. So, like, I really kind of avoided the WoW stuff.
Yeah.
On such a level that, like, everything else that came after it that was like based on WoW or the engine or whatever, I'm like, I don't know about this.
I mean, I never really got into those kind of games either. I mostly just played like Star Wars games.
All right, so hold on. So we talked about the PC stuff, but then you got into Switch.
It's the best.
What?
It's the best.
What was the game? Like, what was the game that got you onto Switch?
Actually, I bought, when the Switch came out, because I am the world's greatest partner, I bought my partner a Switch, like, right when it came out.
And why did he want it?
Because, I mean, he's been a lifelong Nintendo fan, so like I knew he'd be into it regardless. But also like Breath of the Wild was out, and that was like the big hook for a lot of people. So I bought it for him.
And have you played Breath of the Wild?
Yes, because of course what happens is that I bought him the Switch, and he played the Switch, but I also played the Switch just as much. And then I ended up buying a Switch Lite for myself because I need my own. But I played Breath of the Wild, which is actually the first and only Zelda game I've ever played in my life.
Listen, I'm a big proponent of Wind Waker because it's, I don't know, I love the idea of Wind Waker, of describing Wind Waker as just a cartoon you can play. Yeah. And I understand Breath of the Wild, look, it's baby Link, all right? Baby Link, that's all I needed. It doesn't get any better than that. So at some point, right, we will be hearing the zooarchaeology of Breath of the Wild, right? Or you've already done it and I'm missing it.
I haven't done it yet because we lent the game to our friend who has not given it back, so I haven't played it since around the time it first came out.
Okay, but you will. I mean, that's a thing you will be doing. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like whatever I'm playing at the moment basically dictates what I end up writing about. So, like, right now, I've been probably putting most of my time into Stardew Valley because I need something kind of chill to, like, relax to after, like, doing a bunch of work and stuff. So, like, I have something that I'm actually writing right now, maybe or maybe not for publication, about, in general, video games and archaeology, but stuff like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing that use archaeology as, like, a side game mechanic.
Hold on. Real quick. Do you play Animal Crossing?
Yeah.
What? Look, all right, okay, so I told you, we all watched wrestling during the Attitude Era. Yeah. But we were also all very addicted to the original Animal Crossing. Very addicted. It was like
two extremes.
Cocaine on campus. Like there was...
Animal Crossing's here, and then, like, if you walk, like, maybe, like, 2 football fields down, that's where, like, Attitude Era Wrestling is. Like, those are two completely different... Like, the duality of man, truly.
But we were all addicted to it on such a level that, like... Like by the time we all graduated, right?
Yeah.
And the group of friends I had was probably a 3-year span. So like I was the first to graduate,
Yeah.
and there were 2 more graduating classes that we all hung out with. By the time I graduated, we had kind of all gotten away from Animal Crossing. And I know when City Folk came out, everybody in the group bought it, but we didn't get as addicted. And maybe it's because you need to be in that college setting where it's like, oh no, we're like, you just play all the time. And now, like, as we record this, the new Animal Crossing is about to drop, and I'm like calling my friends, be like, "Stay away! Don't get addicted. You dropped the habit once. You don't need to do this
so
again."
It looks so good, though. I already have it pre-ordered. Of course, I do. I'm so excited to quit my PhD so I can only play Animal Crossing for the rest of my life. Like, when we get the Matrix technology, I'm going to upload my consciousness into Animal Crossing and then just let my real human body wither away.
Wait, hold on. That's the game you choose?
Yeah.
Really?
It's very nice, and like, you know, you shake a bunch of trees and you get fruit, and then you sell the fruit for money. I mean, what more can you want?
I mean, but porgs are canon. You could go into a Star Wars game.
Yeah, but like, then you have to like fight.
You don't have to fight. How many sand people have we really seen, right? Like, there's tons of them that are just peaceful.
Yeah, I guess, but like, I don't know. I want to...
You could hang out with the Ewoks.
True.
You could be an Ewok. Like...
I don't know if I want to be an Ewok. I love the Ewoks.
Okay.
I used to have a Wicket doll when I was really young.
Okay. I'm just saying there are large... Because here's... Obviously, I didn't play much of the city one, but like, there are bigger spaces. Like, Animal Crossing as a game in a world is fairly small by comparison to almost every other game we've mentioned. So like, there's not really, like, you know, I don't know how it works in a Matrix style. Like, can you go to your friend's town?
I don't care, to be honest. I'm happy to stay with my own, like, especially because the new game is on an island and stuff. And like, what other game can you have a dog play music every Saturday and do a little acoustic set? Exactly.
A KK slider. Ugh.
Checkpoint atheists.
I mean, I will say, one of the reasons that we were so addicted to the game was because everybody wanted to keep their town clean and nobody wanted to wait for anything. So we were time jumping and then running around and picking up the weeds that were the problem with time jumps. It was a problem. Like, I feel like that game would have not been nearly as addicting if you couldn't change the clock.
I mean, I'm a good person who has never done the time travel stuff. I'm very good.
Never.
No, I'm very good. Because
I cannot. You are the one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Like, this is.
I'm the only good Animal Crossing player in the world. I'm a adult woman. I didn't want to get yelled at by Mr. Rossetti.
Yeah, but that's only if something happens.
I know, but like, I felt bad.
I mean, he's out of a job now.
I know. Actually, I forgot. I think he has a new job.
Yeah, I think I read that somewhere too. But like, he's not Mr. Rossetti. He's still Mr. Rossetti, but he doesn't yell at you for, you know.
But I was going to say, my counterpoint, though, for wanting to upload my consciousness into this game is that it does have a working museum, and I could go excavate for stuff all the time.
Yeah, but at a certain point, the museum's full. Like, at least in Star Wars, if you finished excavating on Tatooine, you could go to Hoth, and then you can finish there and go somewhere. Like, there are many worlds. At least in Animal Crossing, like, when you fill up the museum, you fill up the museum.
But also, excavating's so much easier. Animal Crossing, you just kind of like dig a hole. It's great. I wish all excavating was like that. And then you pull up like the little fossil thing, and then it plays that music, and you go do do do.
But here's the problem: we would be sending that fossil off to you, right? Like, that's how this works, right? Like, you would be the museum we send it off to.
Yeah.
So we can get it identified.
Yeah, and then it's super easy, and then like it's perfectly clean automatically, and it goes on display. It's like the ideal version of working in a museum. I don't understand why you're not getting this.
All right, fine. I mean, as simulations go, I mean, Civilization can't be that bad either. You get to be a dictator.
I don't want to do war stuff, though. It's so annoying to have to figure out.
You don't have to do war stuff. Just give them peace every time.
But in Civ 6, they basically make you have to do war stuff. It's so annoying, and it just drives me nuts. Like, I hate it. I don't want to fight any of these people. I just want to build up all my wonders and, you know, perfectly create, like, a nice, like, I always try to get the Great Wall because I like the satisfaction of having, like, your whole area kind of cornered off like that.
What about SimCity? Wouldn't that be a nice between Civ and Animal Crossing?
Probably, but what I've just realized is even though I played that game a lot, I've never really played it properly. I kind of just always wanted to make things like how most people play like Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you just kind of make roller coasters to kill people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm more of a destroyer rather than a creator.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not living in the town in this scenario.
I guess so.
I mean, you're just a benevolent overlord who's giving people like, here's a tornado, here's a fire, here's a giant monster, here's an alien.
True. Yeah, I mean, I still want to live in Animal Crossing, though, because it's just cute. It's very cute.
Are there other games with museums in them?
Well, I mentioned it before, but Stardew Valley is the other one that comes to mind, which is another, like, slice-of-life type simulator game, I realize, but it has a whole, like, not really kind of excavation. You can randomly get artifacts and bring it to the museum to get identified and put on display. I'm trying to think of what else has museums. I mean, almost every game has a museum type in terms of, like, collectibles and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know, so if you expand the definition of that, then like basically every game has that.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, that's true.
Skyrim kind of has it if you're me and you always make a house that has the trophy room because you're obsessed with taxidermy, so you have to have like, you know, you have a dragon skull and then you have like a troll that's all taxidermied and stuff like that.
You are putting so much extra work into all of these games.
I know, and imagine if I could actually put that effort into my PhD.
There's no way, because like there's something like, all right, so this is what, there's something very different about the choices we make in a video game compared to real life. If real life were a video game, we would all do better because we would feel like we had more choice than we actually have.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like it goes back to what Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley are not. By definition, if I had sold a 10-year-old you on what those games are, you're not going to play them.
Yeah, because they're chores. It's a game about chores, but because they're slightly video gamified in the sense that you achieve something at the end. And I've realized that's actually poisoned my real life because I literally can't do things if I don't make them into video game stuff. So like literally doing things, tasks, I have to like have like an app like the RPG Habit one. I forget what it's actually called.
Oh, okay, so I did it for a while, but then like what ended up happening was like I would do the dishes, but I forgot to put it on the list so I could cross it off to get the experience.
That's what happened with me, and I stopped.
So like
too.
At the end of the day, I would be like, all right, I did the dishes. And so I wrote down dishes and I put it on the list to cross it off to get the experience, to level up. And I was like, this isn't.
But I kind of needed that to like get me started, which is really sad to think about. And to be honest, at this point in my PhD, because I'm kind of struggling with keeping on task, I might have to re-download it just to get myself to do like simple PhD tasks of like write like a page of stuff. But yeah, I need that like rush of like I achieved something. It's very sad. It's a huge indictment of my entire lifestyle, I guess.
No, I think it's pretty fair to anybody who's ever been a gamer at some point in their life is shaking their head right now. Like, yeah. Like, I mean, it would be, because the other thing is, we don't get to level up.
No.
We don't get to level up. It's the worst thing about the human condition. I would love to level up. Like, if you told me, like, I have to do that thing for 1,000 times, but I will be better, marginally better at it after the 1,000th time. Like, I'll do it. Like, even if it's shit, I'll do it because I'll be better. That's not a thing.
Well, that's like why archaeology in games is like really deceiving. Because if I knew that I had like, okay, there's 25 artifacts to find in this game, I would be all over the place looking for those 25 artifacts because I would feel fulfilled once I hit 25. But archaeology can be very nerve-wracking sometimes.
So in a normal video game, in that scenario, it would be like you go into your menu and it's like you've found 21/25.
Yeah,
but in the real world, it's like you've found 21/infinity symbol. What? Like you don't get a percentage clicker. Like it's not like you found. Like it's just nope. There's always more.
That's why the only productive part of my PhD was actually going through all the bags and IDing all my animal bones because I could physically see how much I've done. So like it was a nice way to be like, oh, I should actually do this. And now that I'm like just writing stuff, I'm like, maybe I just won't do any of that at all.
I think you will. How far along are you?
Basically just handing in a draft for my results chapter, and then I have like 2 more chapters after that. 2.5 more chapters, I guess, technically.
So just spend at least one of them relating it to video games. It's fine. Yeah. You got it.
My supervisors are like, Alex, you jumped from talking about British later prehistory to talking about Skyrim? It's fine. It makes sense. Shush.
I mean, listen, as long as you can draw the lines, like, I mean,
Yeah, I didn't really think of it ahead. Like, I don't know if you know, there's a archaeologist named Andrew Reinhard, who is a video game archaeologist, and
I need to talk to that man because everybody, he just comes up in everything.
I mean, mostly I'm jealous because I wish I could have just been like, I don't know, I'll do video games for a PhD. And have that excuse to do it. Like, he's a genius for that alone. like also, obviously, like, he's pioneered so much, and I really like his work in terms of, like, thinking about archaeology in more theoretical digital space. But also, man, I would love to have been funded to just play video games, like, all the time. Like, dude figured out. He got the loophole, and, I'm very jealous of that.
So, I mean, it leads me to this question, which is, how do you follow the industry at large? Is it, I don't know, professional journals? Is it podcasting? Is it Twitter? Like, because obviously it's not what it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So what's your, I don't know, how do you keep informed about what's going on in the space?
I'm constantly online. In fact, I'm terminally online. And it's probably ruined my life. But yeah, like I'm always... But that's like kind of the nice thing about Twitter is you hear about everything. So you get all the gossip. That's all I want, really. Yeah,
it's kind of both sides. You get everything, but you also get everything.
Yeah, no, and like my partner's been like, you should probably get off Twitter because you're like mad all the time. I'm like, no, I need to know everything that's happening so I can get mad about it.
Yeah, there's things out there that are pissing me off that I just don't know about yet.
Exactly. I love complaining. Why would you not let me complain?
Thank God you found your space. That's what podcasting is for.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I worry sometimes that I come off as too negative on my podcast because I love complaining about stuff, especially because, like, there's stuff like fish bones and bird bones I don't really like working with, so I love complaining about them. It's just fun. I'm a New Yorker, Complaining's like our lifeblood.
So, what have we learned during this episode? Well, every project with a few people can be related to a role-playing game party. Games can help you learn or teach, and wrestling may just be the purest form of storytelling, but let's dig into those 3 things before we head on out of here. Every project with a few people can be related to a role-playing game party. Yes, I said D&D during the episode, but it works with Pathfinder or whatever rule set strikes your fancy. Team building is important, and not just for communication, but in building a team in which all of the bases and basics are covered. There's a reason D&D comes to mind first in this scenario, and it's because of the short-lived 80s animated cartoon, and yes, it was short-lived. In it, the party of friends is made up as a perfectly balanced party. A ranger, cavalier, acrobat, magician, thief, and barbarian. There's not 2 thieves, and there's not 4 magicians. This doesn't always equate to the real world, mostly because people are wearing multiple hats, which in RPG parlance would be multi-classing. Your tech guy is also your web guy. Your finance guy is also HR. But we all know that while it's great to have someone who can do many things, it's also great, especially in a team setting, to have someone who specializes. For this episode, it would be great if every historical excavation had a zooarchaeologist for animal bones instead of just looking down on them, as we might learn something more than we currently are, just as every soccer team needs a goalie because they're specialized in stopping the ball from getting past them. But sometimes you just need to move a defender in goal because it's the best you can do. We should aim for better, and that leads me to point number 2. Games can help us learn. Games that can help you learn or help you teach is such a generalized statement that it should just be common sense. From personal experience, I learned to type from Mavis Beacon. I learned a larger vocabulary from reading, surely, but also from playing Magic the Gathering at a younger age. And, well, Civilization, Colonization, and other such loosely fact-based games do get into your brain more than you would imagine. And, as I understand it, Minecraft is a great teaching aid, and the new Animal Crossing New Horizons has crafting in it as well. Plus, in regards to Magic the Gathering, because it's near and dear to my heart, many of the top pro players have advanced degrees, and those degrees are in math, which might easily explain why I'm only just so good. But I digress. There are plenty of things beyond math and reading comprehension that games are great at helping us learn. However, to keep this short, and because it's very generic, you'll have to take my word for it. Or, better yet, find a gamer, maybe even one still in high school, and ask them if games helped them. But the key to that is that sometimes you don't need to know they were helping you, or you don't know they were helping you. So maybe hindsight has quite a bit to do with it as well, because some games you don't realize you're learning. Those are the special ones. Though none come to mind right now, I'm sure there's been a few that have come across my CRT occasionally, at least in the past. And speaking of occasionally, I used to watch wrestling, as mentioned during this episode, and Alex still does, but our conversation about wrestling, perhaps being the purest form of storytelling, is not an indictment on other forms of storytelling. It's just that, distilled down to its roots, it's good versus bad, which is also a fairly simple and ubiquitous form of storytelling in and of itself. One of the more relevant things to the conversation you just heard is the idea that you can just jump into it and get your bearings after just an episode or two. And while you might be thinking that that's true for lots of shows, it's not universal. And that's why wrestling is still going many moons after its start. And that's why I'm very removed and still remember it fondly. It has nothing to do with the in-match moments. It has to do with the storylines that were a part of the Attitude Era, and of the characters as well. Plot and characters. Two of the main ingredients in storytelling, and the writers for wrestling know how to utilize both, and have done so for well over 30 years. So, those are my 3 takeaways. What have you learned? What sticks out in your mind from this conversation with Alex? Thanks for listening to the Palmer Files, episode 16. As a reminder, all links are available in the show notes, and now for some official business. The Palmer Files releases every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. If you're still listening, I encourage you to join in the discussion. You can tweet the podcast at the Palmer Files, myself at Agent Palmer, and you can tweet Alex at ArchaeologyFits. You can find Alex's blog at animalarchaeology.com and her podcast, ArchaeoAnimals, wherever you are listening to this. Plus, as always, don't forget you can see all of my writings on agentpalmer.com. The show email is thepalmerfiles@gmail.com if you're interested in giving me any, non-public feedback, or if there's a topic or guest you'd like me to consider. You can also hear more of me in the meantime on Our Liner Notes, a musical conversation podcast with host Chris Maier, and my other gig as co-host of the Podcast Digest with Dan Lizette. All right, Alex, do you have one final question for me?
When you're dead and gone and just a awful husk of a human being, just a sack of skin and meat and bones and stuff, what do you want to be done with your body?
Well, I mean, there's two sides to that, I think. One is culturally, I'm Jewish, so like 48 hours later, I should be in the ground.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm very, very Reform, which for those of you who don't know is like Jewish light.
Yeah.
So I don't know, so outside of that, if there was any value, I would probably donate some part of me to science, but like I'm not. Okay, so despite the fact that I grew up Jewish and I had a Jewish grandmother and a Jewish mother telling me I was special, I don't think there's anything special about me. So I don't know if like donating, like, I mean, I'm sure there's some relevancy to like donating the everyman to science. But I don't know. Like, I guess I probably just, I mean, by that point, burial plots will be hard to come by too. So I don't know. I feel like the Reform Jews are probably going to be like, yeah, cremation's all right. and so that'll be, by the time I die, I hope that'll be a thing, and I won't take up much space. I don't know. I basically, I don't want to be a pain.
That's fair. I
want to be as easy as possible. So if somebody wants to dump my bones to a scientist, fair enough.
Yeah.
If you just, whatever. I just don't want to be a burden, I guess. But I don't think there's any that I'm not remarkable. Like, I'm not smart. I'm not necessarily in shape. There's nothing. I don't know if anybody's learning anything from my specimen.
I think in a couple of decades, people are going to be doing studies into the body of the average podcaster. So,
well, I'm not making money at it. It's all coming out of my pocket, and I have less than 1,000 listeners, or less than hundreds of listeners.
Yeah,
I don't have a So I'm Jewish, but I am white, so probably fairly average, and I'm in my mid-30s.
We always need a control for that kind of stuff.
So I am that control.
Yeah, group. So there you go. In a way, that's
all right, I can be the
special.
I can be the control group for the study of the body of a podcaster.
Exactly.